Our dear listeners, thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Ryan, and I just want to say, it really means something that you're here. Whether this is your first time listening or you've been with us for a while, welcome. You being here tells us one thing, that you care about growth, even if it's quiet and messy sometimes. Before we dive in, if you haven't already, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. It helps this podcast reach more people who, like you, are on a journey, one step at a time, one breath at a time.
And I'm your host, Priya, sending you so much love and gratitude for being with us today. If you've returned to listen again, welcome back. And if you're new here, we're so happy to meet you. Today's episode is something really close to our hearts. We're talking about what it means to reinvent yourself at any age, in any season of life. Maybe you're feeling stuck, or maybe something inside you has been whispering that it's time to begin again. If that sounds like you, this space is just for you.
You know, this isn't going to be some checklist or 5 steps to fix your life kind of thing. It's more like a quiet invitation. Reinvention doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's just waking up one day and realizing you don't feel at home in your own skin anymore. That's what happened to me. I remember standing in front of a mirror one morning, staring at myself and thinking, I don't know this version of me. I feel like I've been living someone else's story. And the strangest part, no one else noticed, just me.
That moment you described, I've been there too. And it's wild, isn't it? You go through the motions, you keep smiling, keep doing what's expected, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, it hits you. Is this really who I want to be? You realize you've changed quietly over time, but you never stopped to choose who you're becoming. And here's the thing that shook me. What if we're allowed to rewrite the story even now? What if we don't need permission? What if we're just ready?
You know, sometimes the first sign that something's changing in you doesn't look like a big life decision or some loud wake-up call. It's quieter than that. It shows up as this subtle restlessness, like you're doing everything you're supposed to do, but you still feel disconnected somehow. That's what happened to me. I couldn't explain it to anyone, not even myself at first. I'd wake up, go through my day, smile, talk to people, but there was this low, quiet voice in the background saying, is this really it? And honestly, I tried to push that voice away. I told myself to be grateful, but deep down, I knew something inside me had shifted.
That really resonates with me. I've felt that too, that quiet discomfort that follows you around, even when life on the outside looks fine. For me, it started with this weird sense of boredom, but not the kind where you're just looking for entertainment. It was deeper than that. I started feeling irritated over little things, losing interest in things I used to enjoy, even feeling a bit numb. And that confused me because nothing was wrong in the usual sense. But maybe that's the point. Sometimes your soul wants more truth, more aliveness, even if your life looks okay from the outside.
Exactly. And I think a lot of us have been taught to ignore those whispers, to push them down with busyness or distract ourselves with noise. Phones, scrolling, planning, even overworking. I did all of that. I thought if I just kept going, it would pass. But what I didn't realize was that quiet discomfort was actually a gift. It was trying to tell me, hey, you're ready for something else. And that scared me, honestly, because what do you do when you're no longer comfortable with the version of yourself you've been living in?
Yes. It's like your identity doesn't quite fit anymore, but you don't know who you're becoming either. That in-between space can feel lonely. For me, it started with a sigh. A small, exhausted kind of breath that kept showing up at random moments. And I remember thinking, what am I holding in? What am I not saying? Sometimes reinvention doesn't begin with a big decision. Sometimes it begins with that sigh we don't understand yet, that ache that says something needs to change, even if we don't have the words for it yet.
Wow, I felt that. And you're right, we don't always have the words. And because of that, we convince ourselves that maybe we're just tired or moody or ungrateful. I remember one evening I was alone at home and everything felt heavy. Not tragic, just heavy. I didn't know what to call it then, but looking back now, I think that was the start of it. The first whisper. The moment when my inner world started asking for something more. Not louder, just more real. And if we don't slow down and listen, we miss it.
That moment where everything feels a little off, a little too quiet, a little too repetitive, I think it's sacred, even though it's uncomfortable, because it's a space where we get to ask, what do I really want from this life I'm living? And most people don't give themselves permission to ask that. We just keep pushing forward, performing who we think we're supposed to be. But change doesn't come from pushing. It comes from noticing, from listening to what your heart is gently trying to tell you, even if it's whispering in a language you're still learning how to hear.
Letting go of who you used to be, that's one of the hardest parts of growth. Not because the old you was bad, but because you were familiar, you were safe. And there's this strange grief that comes when you start changing, even when you know it's for the better. I remember feeling guilty, like I was somehow abandoning parts of myself, my habits, my way of thinking, even the way I interacted with people. But the truth is, you don't have to hate your old self to outgrow them. Sometimes you just quietly realize that version of me carried me this far, but they can't take me where I'm going next.
Yes, that grief is real. And I think what made it harder for me was the fear of disappearing. I thought if I let go of the old me, I'd be lost, like I wouldn't know who I was anymore. But maybe that version was just one chapter, one expression of who I was becoming. We hold on so tightly sometimes, not because we love who we are, but because we're scared of not knowing who we'll be without it. And I've learned that it's okay to feel scared. It doesn't mean you're not ready. It just means you're human.
Yeah, and for me, the fear wasn't about failure. It was about stepping into something unfamiliar, the unknown version of myself. What if I don't like him? What if other people don't recognize me anymore? There's this worry that you'll lose connection with others when you change. But then I realized, what's the point of being understood by others if you're not being honest with yourself? That hit me hard. And in that moment, I knew I had to let go. Not of everything, but of the parts that were no longer true.
That's so honest, Ryan. And I felt that too. The tension between being who you've always been and becoming who you're meant to be. It's like a quiet tug of war inside you. But what helped me was realizing that growth doesn't mean disrespecting your past. It means honoring it by choosing something better now. You're allowed to grow out of your old life. You're not betraying it. You're just saying, thank you for getting me here, and now I need to keep going.
That permission, it changes everything. To know you don't need some huge reason to evolve. You're allowed to want more peace, more space, more alignment. I used to think change had to come from crisis or something dramatic. But sometimes it just comes from stillness. You sit with yourself long enough, and you start noticing the weight you've been carrying. Old thoughts, old roles, old expectations. And when you decide to put some of it down, it's scary, yes, but it's also freeing.
Absolutely. And I think we forget that it's okay to miss the old version of ourselves, even while we're becoming someone new. It's not black and white. You can feel proud and scared at the same time. You can let go with gratitude instead of shame. That shift in how we speak to ourselves, that's part of the transformation too. I've started telling myself, you're not breaking apart, you're unfolding. And that makes the whole process feel a little softer, a little more human.
You know, after a while, I realized I didn't need some huge dramatic change to feel alive again. I didn't need to quit my job or move across the country. What I actually needed was just space to feel like me again. So I started waking up 15 minutes earlier. Not to be productive or check something off my list, but just to breathe. No noise, no expectations, just me in the quiet. And those 15 minutes, they became sacred. A little whisper each morning that said, "You're still here. You're still becoming."
I love that, Ryan. For me, it wasn't the morning, it was in the small pauses during my day. I noticed how I was always performing, even in front of people I loved, smiling when I didn't want to, agreeing when I felt unsure. And one day, I just let myself stop pretending. I didn't force joy, I didn't explain my quiet, I simply let myself be. And honestly, that was the first time I started to feel real again. Like I was finally allowed to come home to myself.
That really resonates, Priya. It's amazing how exhausting it can be to live a life that doesn't quite fit you anymore, even if nothing is technically wrong. I had to unlearn this pressure to keep everything looking fine. Instead, I began asking, what do I actually want to feel today? Not what should I do, but how do I want to exist? And when I started answering that honestly, things slowly shifted.
Yes, that question, what do I want to feel, changed so much for me too. I started choosing things that gave me peace, not status. I used to chase productivity like a badge of worth, but now I ask if something brings me calm, connection, or truth. I stopped filling every hour just to avoid myself, and in that stillness, I discovered a different kind of strength. A quieter, more grounded version of me I didn't know I was allowed to become.
It's funny, isn't it? We often think rebuilding means doing more, but I found it's more about feeling more. Feeling your breath, feeling your truth, feeling what no longer fits, and gently letting it go. These small inner shifts, they don't always look impressive from the outside, but they change the way we carry ourselves through the world. And that's the kind of rebuilding that actually lasts.
Absolutely. And to anyone listening, maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just being reassembled quietly, kindly, in your own time. You don't have to rush the process or prove anything. Just begin with one small choice that honors who you are becoming. That's enough. That's more than enough.
I wish I could say that once I started changing, it all felt good, but that would be a lie. What really happened was this quiet voice inside me, always whispering, "Who do you think you are to try this?" It wasn't loud, just persistent, like a cold wind that finds its way through the cracks. And honestly, there were mornings I'd sit on the edge of my bed and just feel frozen. Not because I didn't care, but because I wasn't sure I had it in me to keep going. It's weird how doubt doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just sits there, like a shadow you can't shake.
That shadow. I've known it too, especially when I started letting go of my old habits. I felt almost guilty, as if I was betraying someone I used to be. And the fear, it wasn't of change exactly, it was the fear of not recognizing myself anymore. Like, what if I change and still feel empty? What if I go all this way and still don't belong anywhere? That voice inside, the one that questions everything, it's not a stranger. It sounds a lot like me. But I've learned to talk back to it gently, to say, maybe I'm not sure, but I'm still allowed to try.
Yeah, and trying doesn't mean getting it right the first time. I remember one night I sat down to journal trying to be mindful or whatever, and all I wrote was, "I feel like a fraud." I didn't even know what I meant. I just knew I was scared. Scared that I'd go back to who I was, or worse, that I'd never actually left. That night taught me something. Reinvention isn't some clean journey. It's full of returns, slips, and circling back. And even then, it's still progress.
I'm so glad you said that because honestly, I had this picture in my head that transformation meant lighting a fire and walking into a brand new life, but it's not. It's crying in your kitchen after a hard day and still showing up for yourself the next morning. It's texting a friend, "I don't know what I'm doing," and hitting send even when your pride says don't. It's choosing softness over shame, letting yourself be human, even when you thought you had to be strong.
Exactly. And that's what I've come to believe. Being strong isn't about not doubting. It's about walking with doubt. I still have days where I question everything, but I've stopped waiting to feel ready. I show up anyway, because maybe, just maybe, courage isn't loud confidence. Maybe it's a quiet yes whispered in the dark. And if I can keep saying yes even while shaking, that's enough for me right now.
You saying that reminds me, no one reinvents themselves in perfect lines. It's messy. Sometimes it feels like walking through fog without a map. But I've learned to trust the movement, even when I can't see the destination. Doubt doesn't mean stop. It just means you're doing something unfamiliar, and that's the beginning of everything new. So if anyone listening feels unsure, you're not alone. Doubt means you care. It means you're alive.
You know, no one tells you that the biggest changes in life don't always come with a bang. Sometimes they arrive like a whisper. One morning, I was brushing my teeth and I looked in the mirror, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was pretending. It wasn't that anything huge had changed. Same apartment, same job, same old mug of tea, but something inside had softened. I didn't rush into the day. I didn't rehearse who I had to be. I just existed, and that felt enough.
I know that feeling. Like your insides finally stopped fighting with themselves. For me, it happened while walking home one evening. I caught myself humming, and I realized I hadn't done that in years. There was no audience, no pressure, just me in that little moment being okay. And I thought, wow, this is what returning to yourself feels like. No grand speech, no applause, just a softness, a fullness, a kind of peace that comes from not needing to constantly edit who you are.
Exactly. And it's not like life gets easier overnight. There are still hard days, still doubts. But there's a quiet difference now, a subtle trust. I wake up and hear my own voice, and it no longer sounds like a stranger. There's clarity, even in the fog. Like, yeah, this is me. Not the polished version, not the overachiever or the fixer. Just the real, living me. And that's someone I'm learning to be proud of, in the quietest of ways.
And that pride, it's not loud either. It's in the little things. It's in choosing rest without guilt. It's in saying no without guilt. It's in showing up, not for the world, but for yourself. And when you do that enough times, one day you catch yourself laughing a little louder, standing a little taller, not because you're trying, but because you're not shrinking anymore. You're finally holding space for who you are now. And that's beautiful.
If you're listening right now, maybe you're in that middle space. Not who you were, not quite who you're becoming. That in-between can feel confusing, but don't rush through it. Let yourself stretch slowly into this new shape. There's no timeline, no pressure to be finished. You're allowed to grow gently. You're allowed to take up space, even if it feels unfamiliar. Your growth doesn't have to roar. It can hum quietly and still be real.
So let's just sit here together in this stillness, no fixing, no striving, just breathing. You've made it through every version of yourself so far, and you'll keep going. And maybe today, even just for a moment, you can feel proud of that, of how far you've come, of who you're becoming. Let's stay here for a while. In this quiet joy, the soft becoming.
Friends, thank you so much for spending this time with us. We know life is busy, and the fact that you chose to sit with us through all these reflections means everything. We truly hope this episode gave you something meaningful, a moment of pause, a feeling of being understood, or maybe just the reminder that you're not alone in your journey. We try our best to make your time here valuable, because you matter and your growth matters.
Yes, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Whether you're listening during a walk, in the quiet of your room, or just trying to get through the day, we're so grateful to be a small part of that. Remember, Healing and growing isn't about big moments. It's about the quiet choices you make every day. So be kind to yourself. We'll be here whenever you need us. Until next time, take care and keep going.